Hey folks, it's me again. Oh, right now we're talking about the various modes, and we'll start out with the Ionian mode, which is also known as a major scale. So if we're working in C major, which is an easy one to start with, we'll start with C and just write out the C major scale. And we can look at the scale and review that we have half steps here between E and F, the third and fourth scale degrees, and 7 and 8, the seventh and eighth scale degrees. Now, as we go to the next form of the mode, or the next mode, we're talking about Dorian mode. And Dorian mode is like starting on the second scale degree of the major scale. So D Dorian would be like starting on D of the C major scale. You would have D to D with no sharps, no flats, making that D Dorian. So let's write out our D Dorian. Okay, and there you can see that we have the Dorian scale. Same key signature as C major, and it just starts on the second scale degree of C instead of the first. So now we have a half step between 2 and 3 right here, and 6 and 7. You can also think of the Dorian scale as the natural minor with a raised 6 scale degree. So in natural minor, it would have been D, E, F, G, A, B flat. Let's hear what that's like with the B flat. Okay. So let's go back down here. Hear the scale. Okay, that's natural minor. Let's get rid of the flat here and listen to the Dorian scale. Okay. So starting on the second scale degree of the major, will give you that note, Dorian. So this is D Dorian. All right, let's look at another example here. We'll move on to the next mode, which is Phrygian. Okay. And just like the Dorian scale, which starts on the second scale degree, we're going to use the same key signature as C major, but we're going to start on the third scale degree. So we'll start E, and use that same key signature. And there you have Phrygian. Now, looking at this, we can see that our half step is now between 1 and 2, and 5 and 6. That is your Phrygian scale. The next scale that we have is Lydian. The Lydian scale is like starting on the 4th scale degree of the major scale. So we go here and we start on F. And we have the Lydian scale. Now in Lydian, we have half steps between 4 and 5, and 7 and 8, or the tonic. Some people like to think of the Lydian scale as a major scale with a raised 4th scale degree. F major would have B flat, but F Lydian has B natural. The F Lydian scale has the same key signature as C major. Okay, so that's Lydian. Oops. Let's go here. All right. So the next scale, or the next mode that we get to, is called Mixolydian. I think I spelled that right. All right. Mixolydian is like using the same key signature for C major, but starting on the 5th scale degree. All right, so let's go here, and we'll start on G. Just go up the notes, white notes from G to G. And that gives us Mixolydian. Mixolydian should look fairly familiar, because we got a half step between 3 and 4 here, but between 6 and 7 here. Mixolydian, some people like to think of that as being the major scale with a lowered 7th scale degree. So G major would have F sharp right there. So you'd have the half step right there between 6 and 7. But Mixolydian follows the key signature of C major. So G Mixolydian would have no sharps, no flats. All right, where are we now? See, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. So the next one should be fairly familiar as well. This one is called Aeolian. And the Aeolian mode is like starting on the 6th scale degree of the major and going up an octave from there. So we start on A, B, C, D, E, F natural, G natural, A. And so you get half steps between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. Another name for the Aeolian scale is natural minor, or the Aeolian mode. So Aeolian mode is the same thing as natural minor, and the Ionian mode is the same thing as the major scale. We have one more mode, but I'm not sure our book mentions it, but I will show it to you. This one is called Locrian. It's not used very often, except for maybe in some jazz improvisation or so forth. But the Locrian mode is a little odd because the chord that's built on the tonic, the 1st scale degree, is not a major chord or a minor chord. So that's part of the reason it doesn't get used very much. So building a Locrian mode scale, it's like using the same key signature of C major, but starting on the 7th scale degree and going an octave up from there. So let's start here, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Now we have B Locrian. Right, so now we have half steps between 1 and 2, and 4 and 5. So your modes are essentially just shifts in the placements of the half steps. Going back to Ionians, 3 and 4, 7 and 8, major scale. Dorian shifts it down 1, Phrygian shifts it down 1, and so on and so forth. So those are the modes. Now, one way you might be able to remember the progression of the modes, let me see if I can add something here. Here we go. I'll add a prompt. Is we have Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. And the way I was taught to remember those is, oops, excuse me, I don't play lousy modes any longer. So there's a way that you can remember the progression of the modes. Now, you probably ask, what if you had a different key? Well, let's see how that would work. Let me see if I can add a measure here. There we go. All right, I'm going to change the key signature here. Nope, go back for a second. Let's say that we want to figure out maybe G Dorian scale. So what we would do is figure out what major scale, Dorian starts on the second scale degree of the major, what major scale G is the second scale degree of. Well, let's do this first. Start here. Undo that. So G is the second scale degree, or it would be a whole step above the first scale degree, which is F. So F major scale. So to create the G Dorian, we would just write out the G using the key's signature of F major. And that gives us the G Dorian scale. What if we wanted, like, let's say, B flat Mixolydian? Mixolydian is based on the fifth scale degree of a major scale. So we'd have to figure out what scale B flat is the fifth scale degree of. So we'd count down B flat, A flat, we need a whole step down, G a half step, F a whole step, E flat a whole step. Because remember, the first scale degrees are a whole step, between 3 and 4 is a half step. The others are whole steps. So B flat Mixolydian would be based on the fifth scale degree of E flat major. So we would write out B flat, C, D, I'm running out of time here, E flat, F, G, A, and B